Good Tuesday morning, and thank you for joining us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get right to your headlines. This morning, we are following breaking news of a house fire in St. Paul on Cook Avenue East. Especially tough news coming within the past hour. Officials confirming several pets died in this fire. Our Audrey Russo is on the scene working to learn more details.
That's a tough morning for the family that lives in this single family home here on Cook Avenue, the small cul-de-sac in the Payne-Phelan section of St. Paul. Fire officials tell us that sometime before 4 a.m. there was a fire that started in the bedroom of this home. All 3 people who live there were able to make it out safely, but unfortunately fire officials did tell us that some pets died, and I actually spoke with the homeowner. She confirmed it was 1 dog and 2 cats that died in this fire. However, she says multiple other pets were able to make it out okay. There's still a little bit of question as to exactly how the fire started in the bedroom of this home, but the homeowner tells me she believes it was a battery, a lithium battery, that started the blaze. Take a listen.
Don't leave batteries in your house. And it can happen in your garage. It can because I said, why can't we put some of this stuff in the garage? You can't. You can't store them in the garage because it does something to the batteries. To me, this ain't safe. If I would have had a baby in that room, or, I mean, it almost blocked, the fire was so big, it almost blocked the door for me, for my son to get out.
The Red Cross is assisting the family right now with shelter. You know, the homeowner tells me that the left side of this house is pretty much completely uninhabitable. The right side, still a little bit touch and go, but obviously it's going to be quite some time before they're able to live inside the house once again. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you. Breaking this morning, Maple Grove nurses have voted to go on strike. Nearly 600 nurses at the Maple Grove North Memorial are impacted by this. Their union says they've been in contract negotiations with hospital leaders for more than a year. And with North Memorial preparing to merge with Sanford Health, some nurses say they want certainty before that transition moves forward.
We don't know a lot on that front. What we know right now is North Memorial is who we're negotiating with. So what we would like to do is just get that contract in place, and then that kind of removes the uncertainty of nursing from that negotiation that they're doing with Sanford.
North Memorial says it remained engaged in what it calls good faith negotiations and says it's committed to reaching an agreement that supports long-term financial stability while maintaining high-quality patient care and a positive working environment for nurses. Right now, voters across the Twin Cities metro will head to the polls to cast their ballots on multiple school referendums. In Lakeville, they'll decide on whether to approve $139 million to renovate the district's 3 middle schools. Other districts like South St. Paul and Princeton Public Schools are voting on building bonds to update infrastructure and capital project levies aimed at funding technology and security. Polls close tonight at 8 o'clock. This morning at the state capitol, a proposal creating a statewide Office of Inspector General is on Governor Walz's desk. The Senate passed it yesterday, days after the House approved it 127-5. It's the state legislature's response to widespread fraud in the state's social service programs. Once the governor signs it, the first Inspector General would be appointed in 2027. Well, this morning we are getting our first look at who the next superintendent of Anoka Hennepin schools might be. Jennifer Hoff shows us the potential candidates.
The state's largest school district is learning who some of its first new candidates are for superintendent. I'm Jennifer Hoff with Kare 11 News. At a special Anoka Hennepin board meeting, a consulting group presented feedback from 150 stakeholders and 1,000 survey responses. This after Corey McIntyre said he didn't want the job anymore earlier this year. We know there are 10 applicants, only 2 from Minnesota. The board will whittle them down to semifinalists who will have their first round of interviews on Wednesday. The board hopes to make a final decision by May 20th.
In 2 days, disgraced former state senator Justin Eichhorn is expected to change his plea to guilty in the case where he's accused of soliciting a minor for sex. Eichhorn initially pleaded not guilty, facing a minimum of 10 years in prison following a Bloomington PD sting operation. Last summer, his defense team argued the case should be dropped, claiming he was singled out because of his role in the legislature. Eichhorn resigned at his seat shortly after his arrest. This morning, we're learning more about the American passengers aboard a hantavirus-stricken cruise ship now in quarantine here in the U.S. Health officials say more than a dozen Americans were on board. Most are now in a special quarantine center in Omaha, including one person who tested positive for the virus but is not showing any symptoms. Another person who developed mild symptoms and their partner were taken to another facility in Atlanta. Health experts say the outbreak is not like COVID and will not lead to another pandemic.
Hantavirus is a known virus. It is a known pathogen. And that helps us. We know what we're doing and we know how we're responding. The system worked. We've moved quickly. We identified the passengers. We identified a way to get them back.
The American passengers will be monitored for a few days before they're sent home to isolate for 42 days. President Trump says the ceasefire with Iran is on life support, just as he's headed to China today, where he'll meet with President Xi Jinping. The war and the standoff over the Strait of Hormuz will be a big part of the discussion, with China the main buyer of Iranian oil that passes through the critical waterway. NBC's Alice Barr has the very latest from Washington.
Hi there. President Trump is set to touch down in China tomorrow at a key moment on the world stage. And just as the U.S. issued new sanctions over the sale of Iranian oil to China. President Trump turning his sights to China, leaving today for a high-stakes summit with leader Xi Jinping, with trade and technology top of mind.
I have a great relationship with President Xi. We're doing a lot of business, but it's smart business.
The tariff battle between the two top economies is on pause, but still no comprehensive deal. And the war with Iran casts a shadow all the way to Beijing, a powerful Iranian ally and big consumer of its oil.
They get a big percentage, 40% of their oil from Hormuz.
The president suggesting that pressure point could push Xi to convince Iran to reopen the strait.
He'd like to see it get done.
As he vents frustration over negotiations with Tehran, casting doubt on how long the ceasefire will hold.
Right now, it's on life support.
President Trump called the regime's latest peace proposal that delays nuclear negotiations garbage, saying they reversed course on giving up their enriched uranium.
They said, you're going to have to take it. We were going to go with them, but they changed their mind because they didn't put it in the paper.
As the conflict drags on and gas prices keep pushing higher, the president saying he'll aim to suspend the federal gas tax.
Until it's appropriate.
To shave about 18 cents a gallon off a national average surpassing $4.50. Congress needs to weigh in, and some experts warn of a limited impact.
It's like you have a water main leak at your house, and you're going to fix that water main leak. Instead of fixing the leak, you're going to try to mop it up with paper towels,
while sacrificing money that pays for infrastructure and road repairs. More than a dozen top CEOs are also headed to China, with the U.S. delegation from Elon Musk to Apple's Tim Cook, as President Trump looks to enhance business ties with another global economic superpower. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Right now, the city of Inver Grove Heights is hitting pause on a proposed data center. Last night, the city council voted 3-2 on a moratorium stopping leaders from approving new data centers for 1 year. Council members say the time will allow officials to study the potential long-term impacts. The city will focus on zoning and how they would be regulated. A high-tech program could be coming to Edina. Police say they're testing drones that could help first responders get a real-time look at an emergency before they arrive on the scene. Police say they already use drones, but under this new program, they could launch them seconds after calls come in. Minnetonka launched a similar program last summer that was one of the first in the state. Edina police say they'll be testing the drones over the next week, and if you look up, you may see them flying overhead. So just a heads up. No pun intended, of course. Let's turn now to the Wild now, on the brink of elimination from the Stanley Cup playoffs after a tough loss at home last night. Let's get into what happened here. By the end of the second period, the Wild and the Avalanche were tied 1-1. The Wild got one more in, but the Avalanche managed to pull away at the end. A couple of empty netters there, winning this one 5-2. So Colorado is now just one win away from advancing to the conference finals. The two of them face off again tomorrow in Denver. Puck drop is at 7. Hopefully the Wild can stay alive here. And then in another must-win on the ice, the Minnesota Frost will take on Montreal in Game 5 of the Walter Cup semifinals tonight. They were supposed to play yesterday, but the game was postponed due to illness and player safety concerns. It is rescheduled for tonight at 6 in Montreal. And then on the hardwood, the Wolves take on the Spurs in Game 5 of their semifinal series in San Antonio. We do know this morning that Spurs star Victor Wembanyama will play tonight after he was ejected from Game 4 following that chin hit on Naz Reid. The Wolves won that last match, tying the series 2-2. They can look to take the lead tonight when Game 5 tips off at 7. And of course, you can catch all the action on Kare 11. Our Julia Daniels will be live from San Antonio with coverage throughout the evening. And make sure you tune in before the game for a Wolves Extra at 6:30. Go Wild, go Wolves, go Frost. Hopefully all of our teams can get a victory here in the next few days. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.